is James Kramer, and this is my 2011 Aston Martin 177 development car. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, that every manufacturer has to have prototypes before they make the actual production car. So in 2009, the Aston Martin CEO at the time decided that they wanted to make the ultimate Aston Martin. So as they started preparing to make that design, they had to make prototypes. So they made 10 total prototypes of the 177. Of those 10, they crash tested several. They took several in mid-development and gave them to an Aston Martin VIP for him to have in his collection, even though they were non-finished. One became the Aston Martin Vulcan prototype. One became the Aston Martin Victor, which is a one-off $6 million car that Aston Martin built for a customer. And one, the one that did all the media run, they decided to rebuild and sell to another VIP customer. So that customer owns another 177 in Europe and was offered this car. He is an African successful businessman, and he paints all of his cars in the color of his national flag. So he bought this car, took it through the whole federalization process to bring it into the US and show and display, and then immediately asked Aston Martin if they would paint it white with red interior. And they then informed him that this was the original prototype and development car that had done all the media run at Pebble, Geneva, Detroit Auto Show, LA, Goodwood Festival of Speed, and that he should not be repainting and redoing the interior of a car with such provenance. And at that point there, he no longer wanted to own the car, and he put it up for sale, and I was able to buy it. One of the things that I pride myself on is that the cars that I own are cars that I drive and I enjoy. And so my wife and I attend many shows. Here in the Valley, there's many shows every Saturday and some Sundays for Cars and Coffee. But probably the most prominent show here in the Arizona market is the Concours in the Hills show that I believe this year is February 4th in Fountain Hills. I had received this car and had it about 30 days when Peter Volney, who organizes the show, invited me to participate. And so it was kind of fun. It was one of the closer public unveils of the car. Drove it from here over to the show, and Peter had a very special elite roped off area of the most prominent cars of the show, and I was in that, and thankfully I learned at the end of the show that they had voted me best of show, which I was very thankful for. And so we'll be attending again here in whatever that is, 2 or 3 weeks, and look forward to having it, as it's an amazing, probably the most comprehensive and impressive car show there here is in the Valley. So just a few details on this car. For those that don't know, they made these in 2011 and 2012. There's 77 production cars, again with my development car. At the time they launched this engine is a Cosworth modified 7.3 liter V12, naturally aspirated, has 750 horsepower, and was the most highly rated horsepower of any naturally aspirated car until about 2017, when the Ferrari 812 exceeded it with, I think, 789 horsepower. So front engine car, pushrod suspension in the back, full carbon tub chassis. The entire car is hand-formed aluminum. If you will look here with me, you will note that most cars have bumpers and seams between the quarter panel and the bumper. This car does not. It's an entire one-piece, hand-formed, hand-rolled piece of aluminum. The only seam for the entire back end is where they welded the back end of the car together to the tub of to the main portion of the car. But it's entirely hand-formed aluminum with an entire carbon tub, which was at the time fairly rare. The car, you can see the carbon tub in there, but is bespoke both interior and exterior with some of the finest materials that they could come up with at the time. The car is stock, a color called copper pearl, which is somewhere around a silver to a coppery color in the sun. I didn't feel like it really represented how radical the car was, so we had Echelon Autosports here in Scottsdale wrap it in satin chrome. So I know some of the purists aren't the biggest fan of wrapped cars, but I thought this actually represents kind of the car a little better in terms of how radical it is. Plus, as much as people don't like wraps, all we'd have to do is put it in the sun for 2 hours and could easily peel this wrap back off. So at the time it was probably as advanced as possible, minus the transmission. These have a single automated, kind of a sequentially automatic transmission, and they're great when you're on the track and at high speed, but extremely jerky and rough and not very comfortable at low speeds or when the car's cold. So that is the downfall of this car. Me and several other 177 owners have talked to Aston Martin about manual swapping this car, and you wouldn't want to modify a car like this unless it was the factory that authorized it and did the work, but that may happen someday based upon some of our desires. But if you look in there, it would require some massive modification to the center console in how you would manage to make add a gear shift and make all that still work the way it does. So that is pretty much what I can tell you about the car.